Sentry mode activated. Target acquired.
Hey there, hunters. Welcome back to the Gunners Guild. And hey, I actually mean it this time since we're talking specifically about hunters today, but hunters in World of Warcraft, not Monster Hunter hunters. So still holds, but yeah, anyway. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the hunter class today because there's a lot of confusion about rotations, gear, consumables, and all that stuff. And I just wanted to share my setups and rotations. Do note that I am playing a survival hunter, as each raid team should have at least one, so that's my role, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I wanted to point out that my setup and perspective is not exactly going to be the same for people playing Beastmaster Hunter, which should be the bulk majority of hunters because it's better DPS. But maybe you can learn something here or get motivated enough to be the sacrificial survival hunter anyway. I know a lot of people are hesitant to roll survival because they feel like it's just a meme or a tool to apply exposed weakness, and while that is partially true, they are more support, but I'm here to tell you that survival is a real spec. It can certainly hang DPS wise. Now in my logs versus Groll and Magtheridon, I'm pretty frequently top on the hunters and top 4 overall. The DPS is there for sure, but it's definitely not going to compare to optimal Beastmaster play. I just want to say that you shouldn't be afraid of being the raid's designated survival hunter. It's fine, take it with pride. So first, let's look at your hunter spec, because there's only 2 options here in Burning Crusade. Now regardless of spec, the middle marksman tree is pretty much going to be the same, because you need mortal shots if you want to do damage, so this whole section is pretty much locked out. The only thing to note here is that in the marksman tree, you make sure to have efficiency for reduced mana costs on your shots, because only one hunter, mostly the survival hunter, needs to have improved hunter's mark, since you're going to be the one on the support kit anyway. It's typically survival hunter. Beastmasters probably want efficiency for, well, mana efficiency. The first actual tree here is the standard setup for Beastmaster, which most hunters will be. It's optimal DPS setup for a few reasons, most notably having a natural 20% haste for you and your pet from Serpent Swiftness. And then you also have Beast Within, granting you Bestial Wrath to your hunter as well as your pet, so you have a 50% damage buff on a 2-minute cooldown, which is flippin' insane. I will get to the rotation for Beastmasters a little bit later. Now, Beastmaster is the more powerful spec, but also far more boring if you ask me. The next tree here is the survival tree. The main takeaways from this tree is the fact that you get 3% extra hit from the tree itself, which lowers all your required hit cap from 9% down to 6% on your gear, and 3% if you have improved Fairy Fires active, which your raid probably should. Basically though, you don't need much hit gear at all, which is a shame because like all the good hunter gear has hit on it, so you can tend to get overcapped pretty easily. Now that's also good though, because the main point of survival hunter is to stack agility and grab exposed weakness. This puts a debuff on your target when you crit, which will give attack power to anyone attacking it equal to 25% of your agility. So right now in phase 1, you can reasonably get about 1000 agi, which is going to be granting your physical DPS 250 more attack power, which is pretty flippin' awesome. So yeah, your whole job is to keep up exposed weakness all the time to give everyone else more power. Hence the reason why you're the sacrificial hunter, you're propping everyone else up. Now regarding gearing and stuff, I don't really want to get into that because there's tons of resources for gearing and professions. You can check out the Hunter Discord, wowtbc.gg, Icy Veins, all that stuff. Like all those places, if you want references for optimal gearing, go there. If you're going to be the survival hunter though, the main thing to realize is that you don't need much hit and agi is your most important stat. It's the only real difference. Now with talents and gearing out of the way, let's briefly talk about raid consumables. So first let's talk about your elixirs and flasks. There's not very many options for hunters sadly. You can either run a Flask of Relentless Assault for 120 AP, or you can run an Elixir of Agility and a Mage Blood Elixir. Agi elixirs are okay. 35 agi 20 crit rating isn't really better than 120 AP, especially when you consider that the flask persists through death. So I wouldn't really recommend the duo elixir over the flask setup unless you happen to be the survival hunter. 35 agi doesn't sound like much, but it will get boosted with like lightning reflexes and blessing of kings, so you're going to get actually about 45 agi out of it, which is better. Now the elixir of demon slaying is pretty much used exclusively on Magtheridon unless you're going to do super sweaty stuff like Prince and Illhoof and you really want to top those charts. So you can pop these on the Magtheridon fight either right before you begin or as you enter phase 2 to guarantee full uptime in the fight. These are also dirt cheap, so there's no real reason not to use them. The mana per 5 from Mage Blood is mostly useless, but there's also no good Guardian elixirs for hunters, so you might as well use it. The only fights when this actually becomes relevant is like Nightbane, Groll, and Mag, since they're all going to last about 4 minutes or more. So for food buffs though, you definitely want agi food, Warp Burgers, or grilled mudfish. Hit food looks good on paper, but you have so much extra hit rating on gear, and most raids will be running improved Fairy Fires, so you probably won't need 20 extra hit from the food. And I'd go Agi since it's more crit as well and scales more with kings and reflexes. Now don't forget to feed your pet with your Kibler's Bits. 20 extra strength for your pet is actually a good amount of attack power, and it's super cheap to make. You should have hundreds of these things, just use them. For your weapon buffs, you only really have 2 options. If you have a 2-handed weapon, you gotta grab mana oils because that's literally the only thing you can do. Might as well have the extra MP5, right? If you're running claws, you need to grab adamantite weight stones. These grant flat added damage and crit rating, which apply to all weapon damage, not just melee. So it does apply to your ranged weapons, which seems like a bug or an oversight, but I mean, it's a documented thing. But yeah, bonus crit damage, really important. If you're survival and you get your hands on like legacy, don't worry about it. Agi is your main concern, but otherwise, get your claws together for those whetstones. As an added extra pump, try bringing scrolls if you can. Strength scrolls for your pet and Agi scrolls for yourself may not seem like much, but if you really want to min-max, obviously they're going to be needed. I'm not sure how much scrolls are going to cost on your server, but here they're about 3 gold. Just pick them up, they're not that expensive. Now during raid bosses, you have a few options of consumables. Haste potions, mana potions, fel mana potions, they all should be on your hand and ready to go. Fel mana potions are straight up superior to mana potions. It's 3200 mana over 24 seconds, which is far better than a range of 1800 to 3000 from a regular mana potion. The 25 reduced spell damage means literally nothing to hunters. Even a survival hunter who uses arcane shot, don't care about it. I wouldn't recommend any hunter using regular mana potions, but I do know that fel mana potions are like 5 times the cost of mana potions because they need mana thistle to make. So I get those who are on a budget and hesitant on blowing money on these. The good news is that you should really only need these if you don't have someone keeping up Judgment of Wisdom on a raid boss. And even then, the only bosses that warrant them are probably Groll Mag and Nightbane. Maybe Prince, but I wouldn't put him there. So you won't be going through these all that often. Haste potions are potions you should be popping if you know Judgment of Wisdom is going to be up, because that should sustain your mana. So try to time these off your normal buffs like Bloodlust and when you're going to be popping like your Rapid Fire, Berserk, and all that stuff. Reason being is that too much haste can actually be pretty bad for Hunter, especially Survival Hunter. With more haste, you have to start doing a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 rotation, meaning 2 auto shots or 3 auto shots per every steady shot. And because you're just going to be waiting on global cooldown at that point. And it becomes less and less efficient maintaining that as compared to something like a 2-to-1 for the whole fight by staggering your Rapid Fire, Bloodlust, and haste pots. More haste means more chances of clipping your shots as well, especially if you're a survival hunter who needs to do more than just steady shot spam, which again I'll get to in just a second. But I find it better to overall DPS to maintain constant haste bonus rather than just pile on all your cooldowns and pots at the same time, because unlike melee and such, our auto attacks are actually a cast time and a cast bar, and that can get messed up. Haste isn't just auto free DPS if we're going to keep erupting our attacks. Alright, so with all the prep and stuff out of the way, let's talk about our rotation. Beastmaster, pretty dang simple. The only thing you have to do is use steady shot and not clip your auto fire. That's literally it. So grab a weak aura or add-on to view your weapon swing timer, and then you're just going to be trying to cast steady shot at the start of every auto shot. The only other thing you need to do is use kill command, which should be a no-brainer. What most hunters are getting messed up on is that they're using a macro or trying to do like a 1-button rotation to play brain dead, and it's making them brain dead. So you cannot have one button do 2 actions at the same time, and that's what's throwing people off. Like if you put kill command steady shot on the same macro, you're going to be hurting yourself. If you press the macro at the start of your shot and you have kill command active, it's pretty much going to take the input and use one of the skills. It's kind of randomly, it seems. So you can press it and it'll use kill command, and then you're going to have to press it again to do steady shot, which is going to waste your time. You have to press it multiple times. It's going to mess up your stuff. Likewise, if you press it and cast steady shot, then you're going to miss out on your kill command window since you can't cast kill command while you're casting steady shot. It's all bad. So I don't use macros like that at all. I do everything manually. The only thing I have attached to my macros are things like telling the pet to attack when I'm attacking, or putting Hunter's Mark as I start attacking, stuff like that. So for kill command, I actually have it bound to my mouse wheel up and down. So steady shot and kill command are on 2 separate inputs. So when I finish shooting steady shot, all I'm doing is flicking my mouse wheel up and down, and it's pretty much going to spam cast kill command. So this way I don't have one button interrupting my flow of steady shots. This is probably the biggest DPS loss on most hunters, and this is what I do to get around that. People got to realize that the 1-button macro does not work on Classic because they've changed the way the client works. So for survival hunter rotation, it's going to be a bit more complicated. Since you don't have natural haste, your weapons that are like 2.9 attack speed and higher, which is pretty much all the good ones, have about a half a second of free time cap. So if you steady shot at the start of your auto shot, you have about a half a second at the end after your steady shot fires before your auto shot fires. This is kind of where survival rotation gets fancy. So in that gap of time, you can fit in either arcane shot or multi-shot. And you're going to want to do this because it's extra hits, which means extra chance to crit and better application rate of your exposed weakness. Take note that after your arcane shot or multi-shot, your global cooldown is going to finish recovering about a second into your next auto shot, which means you can cast steady shot but nothing else until your following auto shot. So your rotation ends up looking like steady shot, multi-shot, auto shot, steady shot, auto shot, steady shot, arcane shot, auto shot, steady shot, auto shot, rinse and repeat. And of course, you do need to find room to fill in your kill command, which is why I have it on mouse wheel. Just rolling that up and down during my rotation. It's pretty much just going to auto kill command whenever it's ready. Also, as a survival hunter, you're going to need to find a way to slap in Scorpid Sting to reduce the boss's chance to hit. So that's got to get in your rotation as well. Now with all these instacast skills, you can see why more haste and faster auto shots is going to make things harder if you want to use steady shot, because basically you're going to be just clipping into your global cooldown, so you're not going to be able to fit it and the haste just becomes wasted. So managing your haste rating is actually very important, and will be even more important in the later phases when we have actual haste gear. So outside of the rotation, the biggest thing that's going to lower your DPS is just bad positioning. Make sure you know your spot in the raid, and if you ever need to reposition, always move during the cast time of your auto shot. Then stop the fire and keep going. Losing half your DPS is a lot better than losing all your DPS if you need to move. Even if you're a Beastmaster hunter, walk and use multi-shot and arcane shot too. Getting any damage out there is better than no damage. Yes, there will be some emergency situations where that won't really be advisable, but you do need to judge that for yourself. This also includes your pet too though. Keep an eye on them and make sure that they're not in any AoEs or fire patches or anything like that, because losing your pet will put you out 20 to 40% of your DPS depending on if you're survival or Beastmaster. And if it does, well, you might as well be dead too. So keep your pet alive, people. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really use macros for putting multiple skills on a single button. That just messes with your rotation, drops inputs, it's a trap. So learn to play manually, please. And that's basically my setup and how I'm playing Survival Hunter. So thank you all for watching, and good luck out there, hunters.